Hey, last time, 9 sisters challenged the muses to a singing contest. The sisters have sung, and now it's time for the muses to come blow them out of the water. Because how dare the mortals challenge the divine ones? Our turn has also come to speak, but that perchance your grace, to give the hearing to our song, hath now no time nor space. Yes, yes, quoth Pallas, tell on forth, in order all your tale. And down she sate among the trees, which gave a pleasant swale. The muses made answer thus: To one Calliope, here by name, this challenge we committed have, and ordering of the same. Then rose up fair Calliope, with goodly bush of hair, trim wreathed up with ivy leaves, and with her thumb gan steer the quivering strings, to try them if they were in tune or no. Which done, she played upon her lute, and sung her ditty so. Dame Ceres, first to break the earth with plough the manner found, she first made corn and stover soft to grow upon the ground. She first made laws. For all these things we are to Ceres bound. Of her must I as now entreat, would God I could resound her worthy laud. She doubtless is a goddess worthy praise, because the giant Typhon gave presumptuously essays to conquer heaven. The haughty isle of Trinacris is laid upon his limbs, by way of perforce he down is weighed. He strives and struggles for to rise full many a time and oft, but on his right hand toward Rome Pelorus stands aloft. Pachymnus stands upon his left, his legs with lily-bee are pressed down. His monstrous head doth under Aetna lie, from whence he lying bolt upright with wrathful mouth doth spit out flames of fire. He wrestleth oft, and walloweth for to it, and if he can remove the weight of all that mighty land, or tumble down the towns and hills that on his body stand, by means whereof it comes to pass that oft the earth doth shake, and even the king of ghosts himself for very fear doth quake, misdoubting least the earth should clive so wide that light of day might by the same pierce down to hell, and there the ghosts affray. Forecasting this, the prince of fiends forsook his darksome hole, and in a chariot drawn with steeds as black as any coal the whole foundation of the isle of Sicil warily viewed. When thoroughly he had searched each place, that harm had none ensued, as carelessly he ranged abroad, he chanced to be seen of Venus sitting on her hill, who taking straight between her arms her winged Cupid said, My son, mine only stay, my hand, mine honor and my might, go take without delay those tools which all wights do subdue, and strike them in the heart of that same God that of the world enjoys the lowest part. The gods of heaven, and Jove himself, the power of sea and land, and he that rules the power on earth, obey thy mighty hand. And wherefore then should only hell still unsubdued stand? Thy mother's empire and thine own, why dost thou not advance? The third part of all the world now hangs in doubtful chance, and yet in heaven too now their deed thou seest me fain to bear. We are despised, the strength of love with me away doth wear. Seest not that Arthur, Diane, and Dame Pallas have already exempted them from my behests? And now of late so Hetty is Ceres' daughter too, that if we let her have her will, she will continue all her life a maid, unwedded still. For that is all her hope, and mark whereat she minds to shoot. But thou, if aught this gracious turn our honour may promote, or aught our empire beautify, which jointly we do hold, this damsel to her uncle join. No sooner had she told these words, but Cupid, opening straight his quiver, chose therefore one arrow, as his mother bade, among 1,000 more. But such a one it was, as none more sharper was it that was than it, nor none went straighter from the bow the aimed mark to hit. He set his knee against his bow, and bent it out of hand, and made his forked arrows steel in Pluto's heart to stand. Near Enna walls there stands a lake, Pergusa is the name. Castor heareth not more songs of swans than doth the same. A wood environs every side of the water round about, and with his leaves, as with a veil, doth keep the sun heat out. The boughs do yield a cool fresh air. The moistness of the ground yields sundry flowers. Continual spring is all the year there found. While in this garden, Proserpina was taking her pastime, and gathering either violets blue or lilies white as lime. And while of maidenly desire she filled her mond and lap, endeavoring to outgather her companions there, by hap despied her, loved her, caught her up, and all at once, well near. So hasty, hot, and swift a thing is love, as may appear. The lady, with a wailing voice, affright, did often call her mother and her waiting maids, but mother most of all. And as she from the upper part her garment would have rent, by chance she let her lap slip down, and out the flowers went. And such silly simpleness her childish age yet bears, that even the very loss of them did move her more to tears. The catcher drives his chariot forth, and calling every horse by name, to make away apace he doth them still enforce, and shakes about their necks and manes their rusty bridle reins, and through the deepest of the lake perforce he them constrains. And through the phallic pools, the which from broken down do boil, and smell of brimstone very rank, and also by the soil, where is the Bacchus folk of Corinth, with the double seas between unequal heavens, twain did rear a town for ease, between the fountains of Cyane and Arethusa of Pisa. An arm of sea that meets enclosed with narrow horns there lies, of this pool, called Cyane, which beareth greatest fame among the nymphs of Sicily, did Algites take the name, who dancing her unto the waist amid her pool, did know Dame Proserpina, and said to Dis, Ye shall not further go, you cannot Ceres' son-in-law be, will she so or no. You should have sought her courteously, and not enforced her so. And if I may, with great estates my simple things compare, Anipus was in love with me, but yet he did not fare as you do now with Proserpina. He was content to woo, and I, unforced and unconstrained, consented him unto. This said, she spreadeth forth her arms, and stopped him of his way. His hasty wrath, Saturnus sung, no longer then could stay, but cheering up his dreadful steeds, did smite his royal mace with violence. In the bottom of the pool is that same place. The ground straight yielded to his stroke, and made him way to hell, and down the open gap both horse and chariot headlong fell. Dame Cyan, taking sore to heart as well the ravishment of Proserpina against her will, and also the contempt against her fountain's privilege, did show in secret heart an inward courtesy comfortless, which never did depart until she melting into tears consumed away with smart. The self-same waters, of the which she was but late ago the mighty goddess, she now pines and wastes herself into. Ye might have seen her limbs and waxed lithe, ye might have bent her bones, her nails were soft, and first of all did melt the smallest ones, as hair and fingers, legs and feet, for these same slender parts do quickly into water turn, and afterward converts to water shoulder, back, breast, side, and finally, instead of lively blood, within her veins corrupted there was spread thin water, so that nothing now remained, whereupon ye might take hold. No, to water all consumed was anon. The careful mother in the while did seek her daughter dear through all the world, both sea and land, and yet was ne'er the nearer. The morning with her dewy hair, her slugging never found, nor yet the evening star that brings the night upon the ground. 2 seasoned pine trees at the mount of Etna did she light, and bear them restless in her hands through all the dankish night. Again, as soon as cheerful day did dim the stars, she sought her daughter still from east to west, and being overwrought, she caught a thirst. No liquor yet had come within her throat. By chance she spied, near at hand, a pelting thatched cote with peevish doors. She knocked there out, and out there comes a trot. The goddess asked her some drink, and she denied it not. But out she brought her by and by a draught of merry go down, and therewithal a hotch-potch made of steeped barley brown and flax and coriander seed, and other simples more, the which she is in earthen pot together sod before. While Ceres was eating this, before her gazing stood a hard-fast boy, a shrewd, pert wag that could no manners good. He laughed at her, and in scorn did call her greedy gut. The goddess, being wroth therewith, did on the hotch-potch put the liquor ere that all was eat, and in his face it threw. Immediately the skin thereof became of speckled hue, and into his legs his arms did turn, and in his altered hide a wriggling tail straight to his limbs was added more beside. And to the intent he should not have much power to work and scathe his body, in a little room together knit she hath, for as with pretty loose certs he in fashion doth agree, so then the loose cert somewhat less in every point is he. The poor old woman was amazed, and bitterly she wept. She durst not touch the uncouth worm who into corners crept, and of the flecked spots like stars that on his hide are set, a name agreeing thereunto in Latin doth he get. It is our Swift, whose skin with gray and yellow specks is fret. What lands and seas the goddess sought, it were too long to sayn, the world did want, and so she went to Sicil back again, and as in going everywhere she searched busily, and as she also came to Cyan, who would assuredly have told her all things, had she not transformed been before, but mouth and tongue for utterance now would serve her to no more. Howbeit a token manifest she gave her for to know what was become of Proserpina. Her girdle she did show still hovering on her holy pool, which slightly from her fell, as she that way did pass, and that her mother knew too well, for when she saw it, by and by, as though she had but then been new advertised of her chance, she piteously began to rend her ruffled hair, and beat her hands against her breast, and yet she knew not where she was. But yet with rage oppressed she cursed all lands, and said they were unthankful, every one, yea, and unworthy of the fruits bestowed them upon. But bitterly above the rest she banned Sicily, in which the mention of her loss she plainly did espy, and therefore with cruel hand the earing plough she brake, and man and beast that tilled the ground to death and anger strake. She marred the seed, and each forbade the fields to yield their fruit. The plenteousness of that same isle, of which there went such bruit through all the world, lay dead. The corn was killed in the blade, now too much drought, now too much wet, did make it for to fade. The stars and blasting winds did hurt, the hungry fowls did eat the corn and ground, the tines and briars did overgrow the wheat, and other wicked weeds the corn continually annoy, which neither tilth nor toil of man was able to destroy. Then Arethusa, flood Alphe's love, lifts from her Aeolian waves her head, and shedding to her ears her dewy hair that waves about her forehead, said, O thou that art the mother dear, both of the maidens sought through all the world, both fair and near, and each of all the earthly fruits, forbear thine endless toil, and be not wroth without a cause with this thy faithful soil. The land deserves no punishment. Unwillingly God wot she opened to the ravisher that violently her smote. It is not sure my native soil for which I thus entreat. I am but here a sojourner. My native soil and seat is Pisa, and from Alley town I fetch my first descent. I dwell but as a stranger here, but sure to my intent this country likes me better far than any other land. Here now I Arethusa dwell, here am I settled, and I humbly you beseech, extend your favor to the same. A time will one day come, when you to mirth may better frame, and have your heart more free from care, which better serve me, may to tell you why I from my place so great a space do stray, and unto Ortygy am brought through so great seas and waves. The ground doth give me passage free, and by the lowest caves of all the earth I make my way. And here I raise my head, and look upon the stars again near out of knowledge fled. Now while I underneath the earth the lake of Styx did pass, I saw your daughter Proserpina with these same eyes. She was not merry, neither rid of fear as seemed by her cheer, but yet a queen, but yet of great god Dis the stately fear, but yet of that same droopy realm the chief and sovereign peer. Her mother stood as stark as stone, when she these news did hear, and long she was like one that in another world had been. But when her great amazeness by greatness of her teen was put aside, she gets her to her chariot by and by, and up to heaven in all post haste immediately doth sty. And there, beslow bred all her face, her hair about her ears, to royal Jove, in way of plaint this spiteful tale she bears. As well for thy blood as for mine, a suitor unto thee I hither come. If no regard may of the mother be, yet let the child her father move. and have not lesser care of her, I pray, because that I her in my body bear. Behold, your daughter, whom I sought so long, is found at last. If finding you a term, when of recovery means is past, or if you finding do it call to have a knowledge where she is become, her ravishment we might consent to bear, so restitution might be made. And though there were to me no interest in her at all, yet forasmuch as she is yours, it is unmeet she be bestowed upon a thief. Jove answered thus, My daughter is a jewel dear and lief, I'll call up of mine own flesh, cut as well as out of thine. But if we in our hearts can find things rightly to define, this is not spite but love. And yet, madam, in faith I see no cause of such a son-in-law as shamed for to be, so you contented were therewith. For put the case that he were destitute of all thing else, how great a matter is't Jove's brother for to be? But sure in him is nothing missed, nor is he inferior to me, save only that by lot of heavens to me, that Hellas to him the destinies did allot. But if you have so sore desire your daughter to divorce, though she again to heaven repair, I do not greatly force, but yet conditionally, that she have tasted there no food, for so the destinies have decreed. He ceased, and Ceres stood, because the maid had broke her fast. For as she happed one day in Pluto's orchard, reachlessly, from place to stray, she gathering from a bowing tree a ripe pomegranate, took 7 kernels out and sucked them. None chanced hereon to look, save only the Ascalaphus, whom Orphne, erst a dame among the other elves of hell, not of basket fame, bare to her husband, Acheron, within her dusky den. He saw it, and by blabbing it ungraciously as then, did let her from returning thence. A grievous sigh the queen of hell did fetch, and of that wight that had a witness been against her made a cursed bird. Upon his face she sheed the water of the phlegeton, and by his head was nothing else but beak and down, and mighty glaring eyes. Quite altered from himself, between 2 yellow wings he flies. He groweth chiefly into head and hooked talons long, and much ado he hath to flask his lazy wings among. The messenger of morning was he made, a filthy fowl, a sign of mischief unto men, the sluggish screeching owl. This person for his lawless tongue and telling tales might seem to have deserved punishment, but what should men esteem to be the very cause why you, Achelous, daughters, wear both feet and feathers like to birds, considering that you bear the upper parts of maidens still? And comes it so to pass, because when Lady Proserpina a gathering flowers was, ye mermaids kept her company, whom after you had sought through all the earth in vain, anon of purpose that your thought might also to the seas be known. Ye wished that ye might upon the waves with hovering wings at pleasure rule your flight, and had the gods to your request so pliant, that ye found with yellow feathers out of hand your bodies clothed round, yet least that pleasant tune of yours, ordained to delight the hearing, and so high a gift of music perish might for want of utterance, humane voice to utter things at will, and countenance of virginity remain to you still. But mean between his brother and his heavy sister doth god Jove, and parteth equally the year between them both. And now the goddess Proserpina indifferently doth reign above and underneath the earth, and so doth she remain 1/2 year with her mother, and the residue with her fear. Immediately she altered is as well in outward cheer as inward mind, for where her look might late before appear sad even to dis, her countenance now is full of mirth and grace, even like as Phoebus, having put the watery clouds to chase, doth show himself a conqueror, with bright and shining face. Then fruitful Ceres, void of care in that she did recover her daughter, prayed thee, Arethusa, the story to discover what caused thee to fleet so far, and wherefore thou became a sacred spring the waters wist. The goddess of the same did from the bottom of the well her goodly head uprear, and having dried with her hand her fair green hanging hair, the river Alphe's ancient loves, she thus began to tell. I was, quoth she, a nymph of them that in Achaia dwell. There was not one that earnester the lawns and forests sought, or pitched her toils more handsomely. And though that of my thought it was no part to seek the fame of beauty, though I were all courage, yet the prize of beauty did I bear. My overmuch commended face was unto me a spite, the gifted body in the which another would delight, I rudes by was ashamed of. Methought it was a crime to be liked. I bear it well in mind, that on a time in coming weary from the chase of Symphilis, the heat was fervent, and my travelling had made it twice as great. I found a water, neither deep nor shallow, which did glide without all noise, so calm that scarce the moving might be spied, and thoroughly to the very ground it was so crisp and clear, that every little stone therein did plain aloft appear. The hoary sallows and the poplars growing on the brim unset, upon the shoring banks did cast a shadow trim. I entered in, and first of all I deeped but my feet, and after to my knees, and not content to wade so fleet, I put off all my clothes, and hung them on a sallow by, and threw off myself amid the stream, which as I dallyingly did beat and draw, and with myself 1,000 maestries try, in casting of my arms, abroad and swimming wantonly. I felt a bubbling in the stream, I wist not how or what, and on the river's nearest brim I stepped for fear. With that, O Arethusa, whither run'st? And whither run'st thou? Cried flood Alphe from his waves again with hollow voice. I hied away unclothed as I was, for on the further side my clothes hung still. So much more hot and eager than was he, and for I naked was, I seemed the readier for to be. My running in his fierce pursuit was like as when you see the silly doves with quivering wings before the goshawk's sty, the goshawk sweeping after them as fast as he can fly. To Orchomen and Sophyland and Cylon I did hold out well, and thence to Menelaus and Erymanth the cold, and so to Eli. All this way, no ground of me he won, but being not so strong as he, this restless race to run I could not long endure, and he could hold it out at length. Yet over plains and woodly hills, as long as lasted strength, and stones and rocks, and desert grounds, I still maintained my race. The sun was full upon my back. I saw before my face a lazy shadow, were it not that fear did make it me seat, but certainly he feared me with trampling of his feet, and of his mouth the boisterous breath upon my hair lace blew, for wearied with the toil of flight. Help, Diana. I, thy true and trusty squire, I said, who oft have carried after thee the bows and arrows, now am like attached for to be. The goddess moved, took a cloud of such as scattered were and cast upon me. Hidden thus, in misty darkness there, the river poured upon me still, and haunted round about the hollow cloud, for fear perchance I should have escaped out. And twice, not knowing what to do, he stalked about the cloud where Diane had me hid. And twice he called out aloud, Ho, Arethusa, ho, Arethusa. What heart had I, poor wretch, then? Even such as hath the silly lamb that dares not stir nor quench when he hears the howling of the wolf about her near the folds, or such as hath the squatted hare that in her form beholds the hunting hounds on every side and dares not move a whit. He would not thence, for why he saw no footing out as yet, and therefore watched he narrowly the cloud and each the place. A chill cold sweat my sieged limbs oppressed, and down apace from all my body streaming drops did fall of watery hue. Which way, soe'er I stirred my foot, the place was like a stew. The dew ran trickling from my hair. In half the while I then was turned to water, that I now have told the tale again. His loved waters Alfie knew, and putting off the shape of man, the which he took before, because I should not scape, returned to his proper shape of water by and by, a purpose for to join with me and have my company, but dearly it brake the ground, at which I sinking into blind by corners up again myself at Ordigido do wind, right dear to me because it doth Diana's surname bear, and for because to light again I first was raised there. Thus far did Arethusa speak, and then the fruitful dame 2 dragons to her chariot put, and raining hard the same midway between the heaven and earth, she in the air went, and unto Prince Triptolemus her lightsome chariot sent to palace city load with corn, commanding him to sow some part in ground new broken up, and some thereof to strow in ground long tilled before. Anon the young man up did sty, and flying over Europe and the realm of Asia's high, alighted in the Scythian land. There reigned in that coasting king called Lyncus, to whose house he entered for to host. And being there demanded how and why he thither came, and also of his native soil, and of his proper name, I hight, quoth he, Triptolemus, and born was in the town of Athens in the land of Greece, that place of high renown. I neither came by sea nor land, but through the open air I bring with me Dame Ceres' gifts, which being sown in fair and fertile fields, may fruitful harvests yield and finer fare. The savage king had spite, and to the thinnest that of so rare and gracious gifts himself might seem first found for to be, he entertained him in his house. And when asleep he was, he came upon him with a sword. But as he would have killed him, Dame Ceres turned him into a lynx, and waking t'other willed him his sacred team wear through the air to drive abroad again. The chief of us had ended this her learned song, and then the nymphs with one consent did judge that we the goddesses of Helicon had won the day. But when I saw that these unnurtured damsels overcome began to fall a scolding, I said, So little sith to us you think yourselves beholding, forbearing with your malapertness and making challenge, that besides your former fault ye each do fall a railing flat, abusing thus our gentleness. We will from hence proceed the punishment, and of our wrath the rightful humour feed. Euippes' daughters grind and jeered, and set our threatenings light, but as they were about to prate, and bent their fists to smite their wicked hands with hideous noise, they saw the stumps of quills new budding at their nails, and how their arms saw feather hills. Each saw how other's mouth did purse and harden into bill, and so becoming uncouth birds to haunt the words at will. For as they would have clapped their hands, their wings did up them heave, and hanging in the air, the scolds of woods did pies them leave. Now also being turned to birds, they are as eloquent as ere they were, and chattering still, as much to babbling bent. Fini Quinti Libri. Thank you for letting me read to you tonight. Please check the description for where to buy my art and my channel page for where to send me a one-time donation. Please check out my movie, Salome's Last Prance. It's my most recent video upload. It's based on Oscar Wilde's Salome. And I will see you tomorrow.